Hi, this is Gina Wagers, and I'm going to be presenting some culturally responsive instruction and behavior supports that are taking place in USD 475, specifically at the H.D. Carnes building, which is the alternative school where I work in the district. So to begin, what does a culturally responsive instruction look like? It's a student-centered approach to teaching. In this approach, students' unique cultures are identified and nurtured in order to promote student achievement and a sense of well-being. In order to achieve that, teachers, faculty, staff, anybody that works with that student has to have knowledge of the student's culture, which includes things like cultural knowledge, their prior experiences, frames of reference through which they look at things or have seen things, performance styles, all in order to support making learning for that student relevant and effective for that individual. And then working hand in hand with the academic piece, behavior support practices that are also culturally responsive would include looking at behaviors in the context of culturally relevant information so that they're not being misinterpreted. The goal of these behavior supports is to turn behavior incidents into learning opportunities. And in order to do so, you're not focusing on punitive punishments. The goal is not to get students to conform necessarily or to exclude them from the classroom, but to figure out what their behavior is trying to say about them as an individual and what their needs are. So 5 culturally responsive instruction methods that are currently being used in our building are high expectations. We all are the alternative learning center for our district. So when students come to us, usually they're behind on credits, they're struggling either academically, behaviorally, or both, but we do have the expectation that all students can succeed and achieve. Going hand in hand with that, positive relationships with students is a big component of instruction here. A lot of the students come to us not really trusting that their school experience is serving them well. They've struggled a lot, so building those relationships and getting them to trust you is a big piece of that. We also have teachers who facilitate. Our high school program is more computer-based, so it is more individualized, which requires teachers to be a little bit more flexible as far as supporting students academically. They're not really teaching to a certain pace, so it really does require more facilitation of what it is that the student needs help with and knowing what it is that their strengths and weaknesses are. Going with that, though, hand in hand, we have small group or pair instruction, which is based on needs. So we do try to figure out where students might have deficits or specific academic or behavior needs and provide small group instruction or support based on those needs. And then we do have quite a diverse population within our building. So we do try to accommodate and allow for multiple means of expression, showing students learning based on what they are able to express to us and the way that they're able to express it to us. And we do also have multiple languages being spoken in our building. So we do have a great EL support, and that is always an option for students as well. So who's responsible for identifying students who would benefit from these kinds of supports? Everybody that plays a role in that student's learning and development, whether that's inside school, staff members, paraprofessionals, teachers, administrators, and at home as well, because that partnership and that other component of who that student is outside of the classroom setting is really important to getting to know them and what it is that they would benefit from when it comes to classroom instruction. So what level of impact does this have on faculty and staff when we're thinking about instruction and practices and cultures and climates that are supporting diversity in individual students? It builds consciousness and self-awareness among the staff, and it helps us get to know students on a deeper, more individual level. What are their values, communication styles? How do they learn? What social problems are they encountering or have they encountered that we can help them and support them in working through? Just their identity and their development as people within a diverse community. As a result of that, students feel safe and accepted. They feel part of a family or a community, and they're willing to take risks for their learning opportunities. Additional stakeholders that should always be involved as you're thinking about building these profiles of students, getting to know who they are and what's going to work for them, is the child themselves. They're a big advocate for their own learning, and being able to teach them that skill starts with helping them to identify who it is that they are, what it is that they want out of their education, so that you can capitalize on meeting their needs with where they're at. Community agencies that might be working with the families is also a really important component of providing that support and getting to know what those needs are. We have the McKinney-Vento coordinator for our district works in our building, and many of our students receive support through that service. So it's really important to be connected with those and to know exactly what kind of supports the family is needing, even outside of the school setting, that impact the student and the way that they show up and are or are not ready to learn when they come here. And then family advocates, thinking about other resources that families might be tapping into or might have knowledge of the family and the student outside of that, whether it's working with counselors or therapists or groups that work with families on things outside of school. It's really important to connect those pieces to build that profile, to really get to know students and their families. Some additional responsive instruction methods that are worth developing would be family-centered planning. And again, developing that profile, getting to know those families, examining what it is that they want out of the education system for their child, and what ways that the school can support their family is really important, because that's really a first step to planning any instruction or anything that is going to be done within the school setting. And then also extending that learning and support to families, right? We think of school as a place for the student to come to learn, but that does include teaching and supporting families in stepping into that role as a key player in their students' education. I think too with this, brain routines, anything that you're going to do instructionally in the classroom that families may or may not be prepared to support at home, if you're going to provide them that opportunity to extend the learning to the home so that it's a family learning opportunity. Those are always great options as well. And then having some kind of observation protocol, kind of like a culturally responsive instruction observation protocol, some kind of method or tool that allows you to collect information pertaining to every aspect of a student's needs within the educational setting, not just who they are as a person, but connecting the academic piece with the cultural piece, with anything else that might be relevant to help you plan and support that student. In addition to that, then thinking about the actual classroom instruction, thinking about assessment practices and making sure that those are equitable, so that we're not just performing the same types of tasks with the same students all the time, that we are giving them a voice and choice, and using multiple measures to collect information on how they perform and what it is that they know and can show us that they know. Limiting teacher talk, so again, students have voice and choice, and the things that they are knowledgeable about, that they can connect their experiences to the learning that they're doing in school and in the classroom. And I think with that too, understanding that when students are speaking in the classroom and when you're giving them voice and choice, recognizing language as a component of culture and identity so that you can capitalize on that vocabulary instruction. We're not going to limit students as far as teaching that one sentence structure is preferred over another in terms of being more correct. We do teach academic vocabulary and when and where it's appropriate to use certain, languages and expressions, but not placing limitations that would make them feel marginalized. And then using some kind of strengths-based assessment. This approach is more psychological. It's where students' personal strengths and positive attributes are assessed and interpreted to develop, again, more supports and effective teaching. And that's not so much on the academic side, but really looking again at like who they are as people and what it is that we need to develop, some of those softer skills that we might need to work on with them in order to help them make the most of their learning at school. That kind of goes hand in hand with Context of Strengths Finder, which is, again, another tool for teachers that incorporates assessment of contextual factors. So again, thinking about what home life is like and the school environment is like so that we can identify overlap or areas of deficit that might impact any of those interventions or teaching strategies, because we want those to align, right? We want to capitalize on what they know at home, the way that they learn and understand things at home, and bring that into the classroom as well. And then I think just a big component of that is the teacher themselves being the person driving those decisions, just having a disposition towards students and teaching that is open-minded, knowing yourself as a teacher and understanding the biases that you may bring into that, the way that you may have experienced things, and as a result may teach things, just so that those are not impacting students negatively in the classroom. Additional behavior supports that are worth implementing. The ruler approach to SEL is more of an emotional approach. It really works through specific steps in getting students to recognize and understand and being able to really connect with the emotion that they're experiencing as you're teaching them to work through social situations with other groups of students. Culturally responsive academic framework for teaching social skills, again, kind of another SEL component where you're taking specific 10 to 15 minute social lessons and you're embedding them into the content to address students' problems, behavior. But a big piece of all of these is coming at it and approaching it from a positive frame of mind, where it's not punitive, right? So trauma-informed behavior supports is understanding any trauma that students may already have and making an effort not to re-traumatize them or approach learning tasks in a way where students are going to shut down and not be willing to engage with them. I think restorative justice is another important component of that, thinking about giving them opportunities to think through and work through problems with the support of the community and outside stakeholders too, to where they recognize and can learn from mistakes that are made and not feel like they are being labeled or judged or penalized for them all of the time. And then supporting students in having those critical social injustice conversations, having and building that community to where students feel like they are a part of that and they are supported in exploring different perspectives from different groups of people. So students who benefit most from this type of instruction and behavior support really is everyone. What's good for one student, if we're willing to implement it for one, it should be beneficial for really all students, because this type of culturally responsive education and having positive behavior supports benefits all students. They all improve their learning in the content areas, but it all also touches on and develops critical social emotional skills that everybody needs. So then relevance, this assignment is relevant to my learning because it helped me identify current practices within my school that support the success and well-being of students, especially as diverse and unique individuals. It also helped me better understand how to engage stakeholders by promoting culturally responsive instruction through family engagement and opportunities to provide them input and learn from them to improve instruction in the classroom. This assignment supported my understanding of the role of the school leader in providing relevant professional development and support to staff to foster an inclusive school culture. And then reading the research from this module really helped me to just confirm that culturally responsive instruction begins with a mindset and a disposition where school is a place for broadening our understanding of the world around us and the ways in which we engage with other people. In order to do that, it really requires getting to know students and families as individuals with the assets they have that enrich that learning experience. This assignment influenced the way that I will approach learning about students and families, and I think it also really helped me understand that relationships with families not only help support individual students, but really benefit and enrich the whole school community. This assignment also made me a better school leader because I have learned specific strategies with which to evaluate how inclusive, equitable, and culturally responsive instructional practices, assessments, and policies within my building are.